The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Luka Doncic scores his first triple-double as a Laker.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
Luka Doncic and his first triple-double as a Laker. It comes against his former team. He was very clearly keyed up for this one. There's no question about that. And, you know, particularly in the first half, Andy, you got a full taste of all the range of things that Luka can do when he is playing well, feeling comfortable, all that stuff. That first half had all of it.
Luka is now officially averaging a triple-double against the Dallas Mavericks, 19 points, 15 rebounds, 12 assists against 2 turnovers. That is not a bad way to start, I guess, your stats against the one team you had never played in your career. He also had 3 steals and 2 blocks to go along with that. It was funny. There was a sequence in the first quarter where Luka had back-to-back threes. The second one ended up getting wiped out during a timeout. Dallas challenged it, and they were correct. Luka, in attempting to step back, his foot was barely on the line, but it was. But on the Spectrum Sportsnet feed of this game, after the second 3 in the Dallas timeout, they cut over to Mark Cuban, who, for those who are unaware, he is now a minority owner of the team. He does not have nearly the same control as he had before. Some would say he has damn near none at this point.
If he had any semblance of control or say over personnel decisions in Dallas, Luka would still be there. So
right, and that was the look on Cuban's face. I tweeted out at Cam Brothers, his thought bubble was probably something along the lines of, "Yeah, bro, don't blame me for this bleep." Like He had this look on his face, like, I cannot believe this guy is on another team. You had the range of playmaking from Luka, you had the range of shot making from Luka, you had the range of early techs from Luka. He got teed up very quickly.
Experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you got the whole deal. But there were just, we'll get into Luka because obviously his performance in that storyline against this team, it's obviously the overarching story, but this was a game that you could tell meant a lot to Luka on a lot of different levels.
I appreciated the candor that he had after the game, talking about not just the emotion that went into it. It was, like you say, obviously an important one, one that has taken up, like, you get anybody, you have those big events, you have all that initial rush of energy, and then you got to kind of get through it. And this was, you could see the difference in the first half and the second half. I think he did use a lot of emotional energy just in the lead up and the afterwards. But he said when it was over, he was asked about closure. Like, does this kind of give you some closure on it? He's like, no, like, we're not done yet. Like, it doesn't happen instantly. And it's just a reminder, I think, for basketball fans, for people observing the Lakers and all that, like, this process for Luka to become not just, more comfortable playing with LeBron, not just more comfortable playing with, Reeves, getting used to Redick's system, the defensive rotation. It's still going to take time to get used to literally being a Laker, literally having your home base be Los Angeles. Like, all of that stuff is just going to take time. But in the meantime, the Lakers continue to win games, and they're doing it without Luka, having to be at his best. They moved to 14 games over 500 with this win on Tuesday. And we're certainly seeing between Saturday and I think especially again the first half of this game, and then moments in the third and the fourth. But we're seeing what it can look like, and we're seeing what Doncic brings and how he changes what the Lakers are capable of in these moments of really good play. And when it clicks, man, we saw it on Saturday again. We saw it tonight. Oh my God, it is fun basketball to watch.
Piggybacking onto the piece of, the piece about this with closure, Luka said, quote, the closure is going to take a while, I think, because he was asked if he found closure in this game.
Yeah.
Closure is going to take a while, I think. It's not ideal, it being how I ended up here. And I think a lot of what was being messaged along the way. But then he said, quote, but like I said, I'm glad this game is over. There's a lot of emotions, but we go little by little and every day is better. And you can, if nothing else, Luka is leaning into the idea of, I am announcing myself as a Laker. I am ingratiating myself with this franchise, with this city. Began a couple weeks ago when he donated $500,000 to the wildfire relief. I don't know if you saw, but before the game, he had set up a parking lot where your parking for this game, if you happen to get this lot, was prepaid courtesy of Luka Doncic. There was also a Jumpman ad that debuted today, and this was just chef's kiss petty. It's a figure that is supposed to be Luka. I don't think it was actually him, but he's in front of an absolutely sick-looking purple sports car that I have no idea what type of car it is, because A, I'm not a car guy, and B, even if I was, I would never be able to afford a car like this, so why bother learning what it is? But he's changing out this license plate, make it like a purple 77, and in the background, that country song, All My Exes Live in Texas, is playing, and that's just, again, there's a lot for him to wrap his head around, I think, still now, but the guy is very much, I think, embracing the idea of A, being a Laker, B, being in a really good situation. And the more time that is passing with this team, the more you see him just smiling, animated, and I think he recognizes, man, like, this isn't how I wanted it to happen, but I got a good thing going right now.
He didn't get traded to like Charlotte or something. I mean, like,
Always
it's not
Charlotte,
Orlando. I mean, or
always.
he didn't end up in some sort of NBA backwater location. Like, he is with the Los Angeles Lakers, and flawless team, no. Flawless management, no. But like, there are worse places to end up than LA playing for the Lakers. And
you could be on a team dumb enough to trade Luka Doncic,
for example. And you start to go through it, and like that first half, LeBron is, we're getting used to this with LeBron, where you can look up and you say like, oh, it wasn't a great game all the way through, and this, that, whatever it might be, and you look up and he's got like 26 and 12 and 8, and you're like, it doesn't, and like that becomes the sort of ordinary LeBron game. And like Luka, the peripheral numbers, aside from the scoring, were huge, and his rebounding in the first half, his ball movement in the first half, the level of playmaking the Lakers were able to put together, particularly again in that first half, was stunning at times. They really had a good rhythm working between Reeves and LeBron and Luka. And you just, if he's not going to shoot 35% for the rest of the season. And the lines for something like tonight, where he, gets the triple double, but it's a 19-point triple double when he shoots, 10 of 19 or something like that, with a couple more threes. He's not 1 of 7. Like, that 19-point triple double becomes a 29-point triple double or 30-point triple double.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Wednesday night features a ton of interesting NBA action. The Celtics are 4-point road favorites against the Pistons. The Raptors, 9.5-point dogs in Indiana, and the largest line of the night, Oklahoma City favored by 17 at Brooklyn. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
But he came through just when the Grizzlies needed him to.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast.
It was a fun one for the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, it was some people might not thought that was fun. I thought it was fun. That was good hoops. That was really good hoops. Two teams going basket for basket, right? Bucket for bucket. It was thrilling. It was high entertainment. FedEx Forum was rocking. As a couple players said, I know Desmond Bain said it was nostalgic. It reminded him of, some of those playoff games that the Grizzlies have had in the grindhouse, in recent years. But in the end, the Grizzlies came up with a 151-148 win against the Phoenix Suns in overtime. The stats, I mean, so many big performances across the board on both teams in this game. Jalen Wells, 19 points for the Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 28. Ja Morant had 29. Desmond Bain, 25. Zach Edey gave you 8 and 8. Santi Aldama had 17 off the bench. Brandon Clark, 14 off the bench. The Suns had, I think, 5 guys score over 20 points. How often does a team have 5 players score 20 plus and still lose? It's pretty wild. I think Grayson Allen had 21 for them. It looked like he couldn't miss. Bradley Beal had 24 points. Devin Booker had 28 and 10 assists before fouling out. Bol had 23 points. Kevin Durant had 26. I mean, it was high-octane offense on both ends. But your Memphis Grizzlies, they fought, they battled, they got it to overtime, and they pulled it out in the end. And one of the main reasons why they were able to do that was the play of Ja Morant. If you didn't watch the game and you just say, you woke up in the morning, you say, let's see how the Grizzlies did yesterday, and you look at Ja's stats, and you're like, man, he was terrible. Well, yeah, you probably were right in the first half. In fact, you probably were right through 3 quarters. But when that fourth quarter came, it just clicked. It was a change in approach. It was look, my jumper isn't working. I'm just gonna get downhill, and these dudes can't stop me. Ja Morant was incredible. He won the Grizzlies this game. It's so many sequences, but I think he shot 5 of 11 from the fourth quarter. He scored the last 11 points in regulation for the Grizzlies. Overtime, a lot of players stepped up, Jalen Wells being one of the ones as well, but Ja Morant as well with his passing in overtime kind of is where he did most of his work there. But terrific overall performance, all things considered, with Ja Morant in this game. Let's talk about how I think the Grizzlies were down 136-132. 136-132 in this game. Ja Morant, who at that point I believe was 0 of 10 from three-point range, makes a running three-pointer. I mean, you talk about calling 12. He makes a running three-pointer with 9.9 seconds left. Grizzlies are down 1 at this point. They foul Grayson Allen of the Suns. He misses the first free throw, makes the second. It's 137-135. 5.4 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. Grizzlies call a timeout. Of course, they call 12 afterwards. Ja Morant makes a running shot, ties the game up. 137-137. Kevin Durant misses a shot at the buzzer, overtime. And again, I don't know if people realize how good you have it with Ja Morant in clutch situations. Like, we've talked about, extensively about, the best way to use Ja and things like that. And I've said time and time again that, the heavy isolation style offense, dribble drive stuff. It isn't the most conducive to his skill set. I mean, he's Ja, so he's going to find ways to be effective at the end of the day. The pick and roll stuff, right, is where he really shines a lot of times. But he can do both. But it isn't the most, conducive to his skill set overall. But I mean, for some reason, they'll throw it all out the window when the game's on the line. Look at this stat here, courtesy of my former co-host and friend of the show, Sean Coleman, here on Locked On Grizzlies. He said, since per shot data began in the 1996-1997 season, 200 NBA players have attempted more than 10 career shots to either tie or take the lead with 2 or less seconds left in the fourth quarter or overtime period of a game, regular seasons or playoffs. Only one of those 200 players is shooting at least 50% on such shots. Excuse me. So I'm going to say that again because that was a lot to throw at you. But basically, since 1996, 1997, 200 NBA players have attempted more than 10 shots to either tie or take the lead with 2 or less seconds to go in the fourth quarter or overtime of a game. Only one of those 200 players is shooting at least 50% in those situations. That one player, Ja Morant. This call 12 thing isn't some bluff for show. This is real. When the game is on the line, there's no doubt about it. You go to Ja Morant, and he could be shooting 4 of 25, 6 of 25, whatever you want to call it. When the game's on the line, he's a bug. He just finds a way. It's the it factor. It's the knack that coaches talk about. And he found a way in this game. It was a lot of perseverance for Ja. I mean, there were struggles early in the game. If you want to talk big picture here a little bit, I'm not going to talk too much about it. That may be for a show later this week. But the shooting is concerning to a degree because the Suns are a bad defense and they don't have much rim protection. So Ja was able to get to the rim and he was able to draw fouls and things like that. But against certain teams who are much better at preventing you to score at the rim, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's going to need to make some jump shots. And 1 of 12 from three-point line isn't going to do it. So, that is what it is. But at the end of the day, Taylor Jenkins, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, and others in the locker room, they really applauded Ja for the fact that he kept playing, he kept shooting. Ja was 0 of 8 on three-pointers, I think, to the early stretch of the third quarter. He was 0 of 5 on three-pointers in the first half. He kept shooting. And as Taylor Jenkins said, Taylor Jenkins did not complain about the shots. Taylor Jenkins said they were rhythm shots. He shot them with confidence. And he was rewarded for doing so. He was rewarded when he made the running three-pointer late in the fourth quarter to put the Grizzlies within one that gave them a chance to tie the game going into overtime. And he made, the shot that took them into overtime. He only made 1 3, but it was probably at the biggest moment that you needed a 3 in the game when you're down 4 points with 10 seconds left. You definitely needed a 3, in that situation. But Ja Morant delivered in this game. And this is just another reminder that, the Grizzlies have a bunch of great players. They got Ja Morant. They got Desmond Bane. They got Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. had fouled out in this one. When the game was on the line, it was time to get the ball to Ja. He was rewarded for his perseverance from the three-point line. And then there was the free throw shooting. I mean, not the free throw shooting, excuse me. There was the frustration with the officials as well. And he worked through it. And, if you've been watching these Grizzlies game closest, you've seen it. Like, you've seen Ja at this point complain for a call or voice, however you want to describe it, vent his frustration to the officials. And the officials, after he drives to the basket and sometimes he's trailing beyond the play. We talked about it here on Locked On Grizzlies. I've talked about it, how that's something that, you want to limit because sometimes it could lead to easy scoring opportunities for the other team. And Ja kind of touched on that in this after this game because in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, a little bit too, there were a lot of plays where he felt like he was fouled and he didn't get whistles. And maybe, those frustrations worked for him because he ended up getting 14 free throws in this game. But here's what he said. He said, coaching them stay on me about that. Just continuing to keep a positive body language. Obviously, that's tough when you're a competitor, so you're at a disadvantage. Look, I know there's a lot of people out there that consider themselves competitors, and I consider myself competitor. So I said, you know what? It makes sense. There's also the other competitive part of you that's it's like, oh, you gotta tone it down because you don't want to get this tech. You don't want to get this team a free point. You don't want to take any momentum away, all that stuff. There's also that competitive part where you have to be savvy. You have to be smart, all things considered. But Josh said it's tough when you're a competitor and you're not getting those free throws. So there is frustration with the officials. And, it's been a constant theme over the course of the season for him. He got 14 free throws in this game. And we'll see, how that continues to play out over the course of the rest of the season. Ja Morant's the way he's being officiated. But at the end of the day, 29 points from Ja, 7 of 25 shooting, 1 of 12 from 3-point range, 14 of 14 from the free throw line. Did not miss a free throw. That was big as well. The Grizzlies needed Ja Morant to step up when Jaren Jackson Jr. went out of the game. And they needed a lot of other unsung heroes in this game as well.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Wednesday night features a ton of interesting NBA action. The Celtics are 4-point road favorites against the Pistons. The Raptors, 9.5-point dogs in Indiana. And the largest line of the night, Oklahoma City favored by 17 at Brooklyn. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
How the Houston Rockets defense got them a big win against the Milwaukee Bucks. Defense won this game, man, because it certainly was not the offense, as the Rockets managed to only put up 100 points in this game. They shot just a hair over 40% from the floor, 34.3% from downtown. And man, this was one of those games where it felt like points were at a premium. They were so hard to come by in this game. Rockets only put up 15 points in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, Bucks only put up 12. Both teams combined for more turnovers in the fourth quarter. 13 combined turnovers, 7 for the Bucks, 6 for the Rockets. Then they did made field goals. The Bucks only made 3 shots, 3 of 18 in the fourth quarter, and the Rockets only made 4 of 18 in the fourth quarter. This was a dogfight in every sense of the expression. I mean, just back and forth. Rockets did a fantastic job shutting out the Bucks at the top of the quarter, though, when they had their reserve unit out there and held them scoreless for half of the fourth quarter for about 6 minutes straight until Damian Lillard went on a personal little 5-0 run to kind of drag them back into it and make it a 2-point game after the Rockets had gone on a 7-0 run to start the quarter. And as close as this game was, it feels like it probably didn't need to be this close down the stretch with so many of the kind of self-inflicted mistakes that the Rockets had down the stretch in this one. And we'll talk about some of the clutch moments late in this game and a lot of the poor decisions by this team. But I really want to focus here on the defense first and foremost, because it really feels like that's how the Rockets ultimately won this game, getting back to some of their defensive principles, some of the defensive identity that this team needs to be able to win games just like this one. And where that focus comes in on is just how well I think they did against both Giannis and Dame in this game. Let's start with Giannis, because even though you look at the box score and you're like, all right, Giannis 27-10, he had 6 dimes, 9 of 17 shooting. Did they do a good defensive job? Honestly, I think they did, right? Like, Giannis is a guy that can go out there and absolutely dominate a game, and he can do it in a few different ways. He can dominate on the glass. He can get downhill. He can put your entire team in foul trouble. He can get to the free throw line easily 15, 20 plus times in a given game. 12 free throw attempts is probably a little bit more than what Ime Udoka would have liked to give him. But the defensive game plan to basically wall up on Giannis when he was, had a full head of steam in transition or really driving in from like well beyond the 3-point line worked well, and they forced Giannis into some really difficult shots or some tough kick out passes, as well as just limiting the amount of true damage that he was able to do, by getting downhill in this game. And then when they were guarding him in the half court, they guarded him in single coverage quite a bit. Like, they actually trusted their wings, right? Whether it was Dylan Brooks, Tari Eason, Amin Thompson, Jabari, even Şengün a couple times, like whoever it was, if it was in the half court and Giannis couldn't get like a head of steam, then the Rockets just said, we'll live with whatever Giannis does, right? If he hits a turnaround fadeaway, who cares? If he puts up a 3-pointer, who cares? And for the most part, that game plan felt like it worked pretty well against Giannis. You hold Giannis under 30 and you don't let him rack up a triple-double, then I feel like that's a pretty successful night limiting him. And then his partner in crime, Damian Lillard, Dame had 22 points, and there was definitely, Dame had moments and had opportunities to tie this game up. He had the attempted 3 at the very end after the really weird jump ball situation. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but, Dame had chances in this game, but the Rockets overall, their defensive effort on him to run him off the 3-point line, to force him into really tough contested shots all over the floor. He finished with 22 points, but it took him 22 shots to get there. Just 7 of 22 shooting for Dame, 4 of 11 from downtown, and he had 3 turnovers. Like, the Rockets honestly did a pretty commendable job limiting the star duo from the Milwaukee Bucks. And yeah, there were some moments where those guys were able to pass out of some of the double teams and the blitzes that they were showing, but ultimately holding those two guys where they did, and the effort and intensity in that fourth quarter to limit the Bucks to just 12 points on 3 of 18 shooting and to force so many turnovers. If the Rockets themselves hadn't had such a catastrophic fourth quarter as far as their own level of execution on the offensive end and turning the ball over and so many missed opportunities that they could have capitalized on late in this game, then it feels like that was the type of defensive intensity where if the Rockets have even a average offensive quarter where they hit some of the shots that they generated, where they don't turn the ball over a billion different times off of very silly mistakes, then we're talking about a game where the Rockets run away with this one in the fourth quarter after pitching a 6-minute shutout, coupled with, what would have been even a remotely halfway decent offensive quarter. We're talking 20 points, 22 points, whatever, cut back a few of those turnovers, convert, on a couple of those looks that ultimately didn't go down in that frame, then we're looking at a very different type of game. But this is the type of defensive intensity and intentionality from this team that they need to be able to win games. And this is the type of performance. You look at this game and it very much felt like a playoff atmosphere. It very much felt like two aspiring playoff teams really going head to head and kind of testing the mettle of one another. And these are the types of games, with the Rockets being able to find ways to win down the stretch, even if it's ugly, whatever, that gives me a lot of confidence about the Rockets' chances in a 7-game playoff series. Yes, we've seen them drop some games here and there during the regular season that they probably shouldn't have. Yes, we've seen some collapses. Yes, we've seen the offense dry up at times. But when you can play defense at this kind of a level, when you can hold one of the best offensive teams in the NBA in the Milwaukee Bucks to just 97 points, then you're doing something right. And over the course of a 7-game series, this level of defense, which I think it'll be easier for them to tap into on a game-to-game, night-to-night basis once you're in the postseason and you know that every game matters, as opposed to the regular season where maybe effort or intensity can wane in a given possession or for a given quarter or a half, things like that. That's what should inspire a lot of confidence to Rockets fans, is that this team, when they are locked in, when they are engaged, can play this type of can put on this type of a defensive showcase, really limiting the Bucks, holding them to, again, just 97 points. The offense wasn't phenomenal, but the defense did enough to win this game.